15 clients a night. Each pays about $50 for half an hour of sex. His best customers may surprise you. Orthodox Jews. The business is profitable. On a good day, Golan can gross as much as $20,000. Sources tell Primetime organized crime is heavily involved.
I understand you have important friends.
Yes.
The Israeli mafia.
Yes.
Do they have a financial interest in this place?
Yes.
How much do you have to pay a month?
They start always 5-6%, and slowly they want more and more. Because of this reason, we stop to pay.
What could that amount to? $20,000 a month? As much as that?
Something like this.
That would be close.
Yes.
Golan, whose son is in business with him, says they have worked out a partnership deal with the Israeli mob, a deal he discussed openly. Actually, he's proud of his work. His young women, he says, are not beaten and are treated far better than in most other such establishments. In fact, the mother of his toddler is one of the Russian women who used to work for him. Several of the women who work for him now told us horror stories about previous owners. Nightmares like 20-year-old Katya's, sold 10 times in 11 months and never paid.
When you were in these other places, how many hours a day were you working?
From 12 noon until 6 in the morning.
12 noon to 6 a.m.? 18 hours a day?
We lived there. We didn't leave there because we slept there. We ate there. We did our jobs there.
You slept in the beds that you turned the tricks in?
Yes. They were afraid to leave, afraid they'd be beaten. I know there was one girl before me who got beaten up pretty badly. It was even worse than what they did to me. They pumped her up with tranquilizers and went at her.
And yet the young women rarely go to the police. Golan's women are constantly guarded, lest they, as he put it, escape. Police sources told us there are many other reasons. The young women are in the country illegally, and many grew up in the former Soviet Union fearing the police. In addition, sometimes organized crime figures have threatened to harm them or their families if they talk.
How many Russian girls would you say the police have arrested and taken downtown to be deported?
From my place, last 2 years, around 100.
100 young women from
Yes.
your place taken to be deported.
Yes.
Have you ever been arrested?
No.
Never arrested, yet engaged in an illegal business, prostitution. And the fact that he's buying and selling women, as shocking as it may seem, an Israeli law professor told us Israel has no law specifically prohibiting the sale of humans. And an Israeli prosecutor told us that has crippled his efforts to combat the problem. But being in the country without the proper papers is against the law. So the pimps and traffickers continue to operate, and the young women continue to get deported. How does Golan stay in business? He told us about corruption inside the Israeli Interior Ministry, the very department charged with monitoring this area.
I understand you have a good source in the Department of Interior. True? Who can help you get papers so that girls can come in?
Yes.
Golan told us he pays his contact in the Interior Department $1,000 for fake Israeli identification papers for each girl. We asked Rafi Cohen of the Interior Ministry about the allegation.
We interviewed a man who operates a very large brothel here in Israel. And he told us that he has a source inside the Ministry of the Interior for which you work, who he can pay $1,000 and get false papers to bring girls in.
This is just unbelievable. I am certainly ready to check this information, and I promise that if this information is indeed accurate, we will do everything, and I mean everything, to check this and deal with this in order to stop it at its roots.
And yet the trafficking goes on.
With all due respect, the Israeli solution seems to be to deport them, not to shut down the brothels, not to arrest the pimps, not to protect the girls, not to deal with the criminal activity that's happening inside this country.
The solutions that we have right now are basically systemic. One way is to try and prevent their entry. But as a democratic country, we cannot shut down the borders completely. Those girls who come to Israel have to take the responsibility to find out exactly what they're supposed to be doing in Israel. It's simply good advice.
How can you put the responsibility on them? How could they possibly know before they come here that they're going to essentially be sold into slavery and beaten and forced to work and sleep in the same beds?
Before I visit a foreign country, I plan it in advance.
Based on our investigation and reports from around the world, there is high-level government complicity in many, many countries. We're talking complicity in terms of police forces, in terms of immigration authorities, and in terms of ministries of foreign affairs. So that kind of complicity absolutely needs to be investigated and needs to be taken very seriously.
Late tonight, we heard from the Israeli consulate in New York, who told us that, quote, not only does the government of Israel oppose this illegal activity, but we are actively combating it. But for now, business continues as usual.
They have here a very king-size bed and TV and bar.
Jacob Golan is doing so well, he's expanding his operation, which means soon he'll be buying even more young women. He hopes from the former Soviet Union.
Last week, the U.S. Justice Department confirmed that trafficking in women from the former Soviet Union has been documented in the U.S. and says it is actively investigating. Primetime will stay on the story.